I was folding laundry in my sunny kitchen when my youngest son, Marcus, called from the cockpit. "Mom, is Sarah home?" I glanced toward the living room where my daughter-in-law sat reading. "Yes, she's right here, honey." His voice dropped to a whisper. "That's impossible. She just boarded my flight to Miami with some guy." My blood turned cold. "Marcus, I'm looking at her right now." Then I heard footsteps behind me. I turned. The living room was empty. Sarah's book lay open on the couch. My hands trembled as I set down Marcus's favorite childhood shirt, the one with the tiny airplane prints that I'd kept all these years. At 65, I thought I'd seen enough of life to spot deception, but standing in my empty living room, staring at that abandoned book, I realized how wrong I'd been. "Mom, are you still there?" Marcus's voice crackled through the phone. "Yes, sweetheart, let me call you back." I ended the call with shaking fingers, my mind racing. How could Sarah be in two places at once? Let me back up and explain how we got here. 15 years ago, when my husband Paul died in a construction accident, I was left with 3 children and a mountain of debt. But I'm not one to fold under pressure. I took Paul's life insurance money and started a catering business from my kitchen. Today, Adrienne's Elegant Events serves half the society functions in our Connecticut town, and I own 2 rental properties that keep me comfortable. My eldest, James, followed his father's work ethic but chose banking over building. At 35, he's a senior investment manager at Preston Financial, managing portfolios for clients who trust him with millions. The job consumes him leaving before sunrise and returning well after sunset. His dedication worried me until he met Sarah 5 years ago. My middle child, Grace, inherited my fighter spirit. At 30, she's a rising star at Morrison Legal, specializing in financial crimes. After her ex-husband abandoned her with their daughter, Emma, she rebuilt her life with the same determination I'd shown after Paul's death. Then there's Marcus, my baby, at 32. While his siblings chose conventional paths, Marcus reached for the skies. He flies Boeing 737s for Continental Airways, calling me from cockpits around the world. His divorce last year from his high school sweetheart hit him hard, but flying remains his salvation. Sarah entered our lives like spring after a harsh winter. James met her at the Children's Hospital Charity Gala where she was volunteering. She told us she'd grown up in foster care, working 3 jobs to put herself through nursing school. No family, no connections, just pure determination. How could I not admire that? Their wedding was small but elegant, held in my backyard garden. Sarah wore my mother's pearl necklace, tears streaming as she whispered, "I've never had a real mom before." James beamed with joy I hadn't seen since his father died. I gave them $50,000 for a house down payment, wanting my son to start his marriage on solid ground. Sarah became the daughter I'd never had. Every Tuesday and Thursday, she'd stop by after her hospital shifts. We'd cook Paul's mother's recipes together while she shared stories from the cardiac unit. She remembered every birthday, attended every family dinner, and called me Mom with such genuine affection that my friends envied our relationship. But now, staring at her book, something shifted in my chest. I picked it up carefully. The cover showed a generic romance novel, but as I flipped through the pages, my blood chilled. It wasn't a novel at all. The pages contained handwritten entries in some kind of code, dates, numbers, cryptic phrases. Today's date jumped out at me. Operation Butterfly, Phase 3. Primary at base. Secondary airborne. Convergence imminent. I heard the bathroom door open down the hall. Moving quickly, I pulled out my phone and photographed several pages, then placed the book exactly as I'd found it. Sarah emerged, smoothing her scrubs. "Sorry, Mom, sudden upset stomach. Must have been something I ate." She settled back onto the couch, picking up her book without suspicion. "Where were we?" "Oh yes, you were telling me about the Pemberton anniversary party menu." I forced my face into its usual warm expression. "Right, they want stations instead of a sit-down dinner. I'm thinking 5 different cuisines." As I rattled off menu options, my mind churned. How had she gone from my living room to Marcus's plane? Who was the man she was with? What was Operation Butterfly? I studied her face. The same sweet features, the same gentle smile. But something felt different now, like looking at a familiar painting and suddenly noticing shadows you'd never seen before. "You seem distracted," Sarah observed, tilting her head with concern. "Everything okay?" "Just thinking about all the prep work. You know how I get before big events." She laughed, the sound tinkling like wind chimes. "You'll do amazing, as always. James is so proud of how hard you work. We both are." The mention of my son made my stomach clench. Whatever was happening, James was in the middle of it. I needed answers, but I had to be careful. If Sarah was playing some kind of game, I couldn't let her know I was on to her. My phone buzzed. Marcus again. I let it go to voicemail. "Aren't you going to answer?" Sarah asked. "It's just Marcus, probably calling to complain about airline food again." I waved dismissively. "You know how pilots are." She smiled, but something flickered in her eyes. "Yes, I suppose I do." We spent another hour discussing recipes and hospital gossip. Sarah was perfectly normal, perfectly lovely, perfectly daughterly. But perfection itself felt wrong now. Real people have bad days, make mistakes, show cracks. In 5 years, had I ever seen Sarah be anything less than ideal? When she finally left, kissing my cheek with practiced affection, I watched her drive away in the Lexus James had bought her last Christmas. Then I called Marcus back. "Mom, I'm about to take off, but I had to tell you. The woman who boarded, she looked exactly like Sarah. Same face, same hair, even wearing the same kind of scrubs. But the passenger manifest shows the name Sophie Richardson, and she's traveling with a man named Samuel Richardson." "Marcus, this is going to sound crazy, but I think you're right. Something strange is happening." "What do you mean?" "I can't explain now, just be careful, and when you land, call me immediately. We need to talk in person." "Mom, you're scaring me." "Good, stay scared. It might keep us all safe." I hung up and retrieved my laptop. If Sarah had secrets, I was going to find them. The woman I'd welcomed into my family who called me Mom, who held my hand when I cried on Paul's anniversary, was not who she claimed to be. I thought of James working late again tonight, trusting his wife completely. Of Grace, who let Sarah babysit Emma. Of Marcus, whose flight path had accidentally intersected with whatever deception was unfolding. Looking at the photographed journal pages on my phone, I recognized one thing clearly. The loving daughter-in-law I'd embraced for 5 years was playing a role. The question was, in what kind of production? The afternoon sun slanted through my kitchen windows, illuminating Paul's photo on the mantel. He'd always said I had good instincts about people. Apparently, even good instincts could be fooled by a perfect performance. But the show, whatever it was about to end. Sarah had made one mistake. She'd underestimated the pilot, the mother, and the family she'd pretended to love. Operation Butterfly Phase 3. I had my own operation now. And unlike Sarah's coded plans, mine had only one objective: protecting my family and uncovering the truth, no matter how dark it might be. That night, sleep eluded me entirely. I sat at my kitchen table with strong coffee and my laptop, diving into the digital world with determination I usually reserved for perfecting wedding cake recipes. Sarah Richardson from Hartford, Connecticut should have been easy to find. Instead, I discovered she was a ghost. No social media before she met James. No high school records matching her story. The nursing school she claimed to attend had no record of her graduation. Even her supposed volunteer work at the Children's Hospital started exactly 1 month before the gala where she met my son. By 3 a.m, I'd made a decision. I needed professional help. Thomas Brennan came highly recommended by Grace's colleague. The private investigator sat across from me at a quiet coffee shop the next afternoon, his weathered face showing years of seeing humanity's darker sides. I handed him the photographed journal pages and told him everything. "Mrs. Hartley, in my 30 years of this work, I've seen plenty of marriage scams. But this," he tapped the photos, "this suggests something more elaborate. How quickly can you find answers? Give me 72 hours, but I need you to act completely normal around her. Can you do that?" I thought of all the dinner parties I'd catered where bitter divorces simmered beneath polite conversation. "Mr. Brennan," I've been serving smile sandwiches to people who hate each other for 20 years. I can manage 3 days. Those 3 days tested every ounce of my self-control. Sarah visited Tuesday as usual. We made lasagna for James's favorite meal, and she chattered about a difficult patient who'd coded twice but survived. Her stories were detailed, medically accurate. Had she actually trained as a nurse somewhere? "Mom, you've been quiet," she observed while layering noodles. "Is everything all right?" "Just worried about Marcus. He seemed off when he called the other day." A micro-expression crossed her face, gone before I could identify it. "Oh, what did he say?" "Something about a difficult passenger. You know how sensitive he is." "The curse of the artistic soul." She laughed. "James always says Marcus feels things too deeply for his own good." I wanted to throw the pan at her head. Instead, I smiled and passed the ricotta. Wednesday evening, I installed security cameras. Not the obvious ones, but tiny devices Grace had recommended from a case she'd worked. One in the living room hidden in a bookend, another in the kitchen disguised as a spice jar. If Sarah was performing, I'd have a front row seat to the show. Thursday morning changed everything. Tom Brennan called at 7 sharp. "Mrs. Hartley, can you meet me at my office in an hour? Bring Grace if possible. You'll want legal counsel for what I've found." Grace picked me up, her lawyer face already in place. "Mom, whatever this is, we'll handle it together." Brennan's office smelled of old leather and bitter coffee. He spread photographs across his desk like tarot cards, revealing a dark future. "Sarah Richardson doesn't exist," he began, "but Sarah and Sophie Henderson certainly do." The photographs showed 2 identical women. Same face, same build, but subtle differences. One wore her hair parted left, the other right. One had a small scar above her left eyebrow, the other's skin was unmarked. "Twins," Grace breathed. Grifter twins, to be precise. They've been running cons since they aged out of foster care in Ohio. Their parents lost custody when the girls were 12. Too much drugs, too little conscience. The twins learned early that identical faces could create perfect alibis. He showed us newspaper clippings from Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Rhode Island. Always the same pattern. One twin would marry into a wealthy family, while the other maintained a separate identity for backup plans. The man on the plane with Sophie was their half-brother, Samuel Henderson. He typically poses as a lawyer, doctor, or financial advisor, depending on what the con requires. But James would have noticed if Sarah was switching with her twin, I protested. Brennan's expression was grim. "Would he? You said he works 60-hour weeks. When's the last time he really looked at his wife? Plus, they're incredibly skilled. They study their marks, learn speech patterns, mannerisms. The only consistent tell we've found is that Sarah has a nervous habit of twisting her wedding ring when she lies, while Sophie doesn't wear jewelry on that finger." I thought back to every interaction. The wedding ring, twisting. Dear God, how many times had I seen it and thought it was just fidgeting? "There's more," Brennan continued. "I had a contact run some tests on James's recent blood work from his executive physical. He didn't want to alarm you without confirmation, but there are traces of ethylene glycol in his system." "Antifreeze," Grace's voice went sharp. "Small amounts. Not enough to kill quickly, but sufficient to cause the kidney problems he's been experiencing. Classic slow poisoning. Makes the victim appear to have natural organ failure over time." The room spun. My sweet Sarah, who cried at our wedding toast, who helped me plant roses in Paul's memory garden, was poisoning my son. The previous cases, I managed. What happened to those families? Brennan shuffled papers. In Pennsylvania, the husband died of apparent kidney failure 8 months after the wedding. The wife inherited everything, disappeared before anyone suspected foul play. Maryland was luckier. The family discovered the scheme when a neighbor spotted both twins at different locations. Rhode Island. He paused. "Tell me." "The husband survived, but barely. Permanent kidney damage. The mother-in-law had a fatal fall down the stairs 2 weeks before he was hospitalized. Officially an accident." Grace grabbed my hand. "We're getting James to a hospital today." "Wait." Brennan held up a hand. If you act now, they'll run. These aren't amateurs. They have exit strategies, fake identities, probably money hidden offshore. You need evidence that will stick in court. You want me to let that woman continue poisoning my son? I want you to save your son and put them away forever. The FBI has been tracking the Henderson twins for 3 years. If we play this right, we can give them everything they need for a federal case. The Journal, I said suddenly. Operation Butterfly, what if that's their exit plan? Brennan nodded approvingly. Smart. Can you get more photos of the Journal and Mrs. Hartley? I know this is difficult, but we need recordings. Conversations, phone calls, anything that shows intent. I can do better than that, Grace said, her courtroom voice emerging. Mom, invite her for lunch tomorrow. I'll come too. My phone has been recording app that looks like a calculator. If she's been poisoning James, she'll eventually say something incriminating. We spent 2 more hours planning. Brennan would coordinate with the FBI. Grace would research every legal angle. I would gather evidence while keeping Sarah comfortable in her web of lies. Driving home, Grace was quiet until we reached my driveway. Mom, are you okay? Your father once told me that the people who smile the widest often hide the sharpest teeth. I thought he was just cynical from job site politics. I laughed bitterly. Turns out he was preparing me for my daughter-in-law. We'll stop her, Mom. James will be fine. He'll be alive, I corrected. But finding out your wife is trying to murder you, that kind of betrayal doesn't heal easily. That evening, I watched the security footage from the past 2 days. There she was, my perfect daughter-in-law, sitting in my living room. But now I noticed things. The way she studied our family photos with calculating eyes. How she'd opened my desk drawers when she thought I was in the bathroom. The photos she'd taken of my bank statement left carelessly on the counter. Most chilling was the phone call she'd made thinking I was outside with the garbage. The camera caught only her side, but the audio was clear. Phase 3 is progressing perfectly. The old woman suspects nothing. Another 2 months maximum. Yes, I know about the pilot. Sophie handled it. No, he didn't recognize her. Even if he did, who'd believe such a crazy story? The old woman. That's all I was to her. Not mom, not family. Just an obstacle to whatever wealth she planned to steal. I poured myself a generous glass of wine and called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. Mom, I've been worried sick. What's going on? I told him everything. The silence on his end stretched so long I thought we'd been disconnected. Marcus, I'm here just processing. So the woman on my flight was Sarah's twin. Sophie, apparently, and the man was their brother Samuel. Mom, there's something else. I didn't mention it because it seemed paranoid, but I've seen that man before. At the airport bar in Hartford last month. He was very interested when he heard I was a pilot, kept buying me drinks and asking about my roots. They've been watching us all. This is insane. We need to call the police. Tomorrow. First, we need more evidence. The investigator is working with the FBI, but we need Sarah to incriminate herself on tape. What can I do? Keep flying your routes. Act normal. And Marcus check if Sophie Richardson has booked any future flights. Already on it. Mom, I'm sorry I didn't visit more. If I'd been around, maybe I would have noticed. Stop that right now. This isn't anyone's fault but theirs. We're going to fix this together. After we hung up, I sat in Paul's old recliner, the one item I'd kept despite Sarah's gentle suggestions to donate it. My husband had built our life with calloused hands and honest work. Now someone was trying to tear it all down with sweet smiles and slow poison. Tomorrow I'd share lunch with my would-be murderer. I'd laugh at her jokes, compliment her stories, and let her twist that ring while she lied to my face. But every word would be recorded, every gesture documented. Sarah thought she was playing the long game. She didn't realize the game had already changed and I'd been dealt a new hand. One with private investigators' FBI contacts and a mother's fury that would make her precious Operation Butterfly look like child's play. Friday's family lunch was a masterpiece of deception on both sides. I prepared Sarah's favorite meal while Grace set up her recording app, disguising her phone among the table decorations. Sarah arrived with fresh flowers and homemade brownies, playing the devoted daughter-in-law to perfection. These tulips are gorgeous, I gushed, knowing the security camera would catch me accepting her gift. Let the jury see how she buttered me up. I saw them and thought of you. Sarah replied, that wedding ring already starting its nervous dance. Yellow for friendship, pink for affection. How thoughtful. Grace's tone was razor-sharp beneath its sweetness. You always know just what to say. Sarah's smile flickered slightly. She and Grace had never been close. My daughter's prosecutor instincts had always sensed something off, though even she hadn't imagined this level of deception. We sat for lunch, my grandmother's china gleaming in the afternoon light. I'd made chicken marsala Caesar salad and fresh bread, comfort food for a deeply uncomfortable meal. James has been working such long hours. Sarah sighed, cutting her chicken into precise squares. I worry about his health. Those headaches are getting worse. Headaches. I kept my voice neutral while my insides churned. Oh, didn't he tell you started about 6 months ago? And the fatigue. I keep suggesting he see a specialist, but you know how stubborn he is. 6 months. According to Brennan, that's exactly when the antifreeze traces would have started showing in his system. Grace caught my eye, her jaw tight. Speaking of health, Grace interjected smoothly, Emma's been asking when Aunt Sarah can babysit again. She misses your story times. Sarah's face lit up. I'd love to. Maybe next weekend we could bake cookies, watch Disney movies. The thought of her near my granddaughter made me physically ill, but I smiled and nodded. That sounds wonderful. As we ate, I studied her with new eyes. The performance was flawless. She asked about my catering jobs, offered to help with the Pemberton party, even suggested we take a girls' trip to a spa. Every word dripped with false affection. Oh, before I forget, Sarah reached into her purse. I wanted to show you something special. She pulled out a leather portfolio and opened it to reveal financial documents. My blood ran cold as I recognized them. Copies of my business accounts, my rental property deeds, even my investment statements. I've been organizing all the family financial information, she explained brightly. You know, in case of emergencies, James thought it was a good idea to have everything in one place. James asked you to do this. Grace's voice could have frozen fire. Well suggested, really. After his father died so suddenly, he worries about being prepared. That ring twist again. I hope you don't mind, Mom. I just want to help protect the family assets. Protect. The word tasted like poison in the air between us. How thorough of you, I managed. Though I'm curious how you accessed some of these. My investment accounts require 2-factor authentication. A tiny crack in her mask. Oh, James helped with that. You know how good he is with technology. Lie. James could barely program his DVR. But I nodded appreciatively. Of course. How lucky we are to have you looking out for us. The conversation continued, but something had shifted. Sarah sensed it. Her smiles became tighter, her ring twisting more frequent. When her phone buzzed, she grabbed it too quickly. Everything all right? Grace asked. Just the hospital, staffing question. Another twist of the ring. Actually, I should probably head back. Short-staffed in cardiac today. She left with hurried kisses and promises to call later. The moment her car disappeared, Grace pulled up the recording on her phone. Did you hear that she admitted to accessing your financial accounts? That's fraud, identity theft. Call Brennan, I interrupted. Then call James. Don't tell him everything, yet just say he needs to come home immediately. While Grace made calls, I searched through the kitchen. There in the trash beneath coffee grounds and eggshells, I found what I was looking for. A small vial, medical grade, with traces of clear liquid. Sarah had gotten sloppy, probably rattled by our questions. James arrived within an hour, his face drawn with worry. Mom, Grace said it was an emergency. We sat him down gently. Grace held his hand while I explained everything. The twins, the poisoning, the financial theft. I watched my strong son crumble with each revelation. No, he whispered. You're wrong. Sarah loves me. We're trying for a baby. James. Grace's voice was gentle but firm. We have evidence. Photos, recordings, blood tests showing antifreeze in your system. Antifreeze. He looked between us, lost. But that would mean she's been poisoning me. My wife has been slowly killing me. The tears came then. My successful, composed son sobbed like the boy who'd skinned his knee learning to ride a bike. I held him while Grace called Brennan to report the vial. Why? James kept asking. Why would she do this? But I knew why. The same reason vultures circle dying animals. They'd seen wealth, vulnerability, and opportunity. My family's only crime was being successful and trusting. That evening, Brennan arrived with 2 FBI agents. Agent Martinez, a sharp-eyed woman who reminded me of Grace, took the lead. Mrs. Hartley, what you've uncovered is part of a larger pattern. The Henderson twins have left a trail of victims across the eastern seaboard. Your evidence might be what finally stops them. What do you need from us? Everything. Financial records, recordings, the vial you found, and Mr. Hartley. She turned to James. We need you to see a doctor immediately. Document everything. If we're building an attempted murder case, medical evidence is crucial. There's something else, I said. The anniversary party. Sarah made a big deal about their 5th anniversary next Saturday. What if that's when they plan to escalate? Agent Martinez exchanged glances with her partner. Operation Butterfly. Butterflies undergo metamorphosis. What if the party is when Sarah plans to transform from wife to widow? The room fell silent as the implication sank in. My son's anniversary party could be planned as his funeral. We'll have agents there, Martinez assured us. But we need you to act normal until then. Can you do that? James laughed bitterly. Pretend my wife isn't trying to murder me. Sure, just another day in paradise. I'll help him, Grace said. We'll create excuses for why he's staying at my place. Work stress helping with Emma anything believable. And Sarah, I asked. She knows something shifted today. Let her worry. Martinez smiled coldly. Nervous criminals make mistakes. And Mrs. Hartley. That suggestion about a spa weekend, accept it. Nothing says I don't suspect anything like planning future activities. After they left my children and I sat in the gathering darkness, 3 successful, intelligent people who'd been completely fooled by a pair of con artists with pretty smiles and deadly intentions. Dad would have seen through her, James said quietly. No, I corrected. Your father would have trusted just like we did. That's what good people do. We trust until given reason not to. And now we fight back. Smart and legal, but we fight. Grace raised her water glass. To the Hartley family, we may bend, but we don't break. We clinked glasses, a sad parody of happier toasts. Outside, Sarah was probably reporting to her twin, adjusting their plans, confident in their coming victory. Let them plan. While they schemed in shadows, we were building our case in the light of truth. The anniversary party would indeed be a transformation, just not the one they expected. Operation Butterfly was about to meet Operation Justice. And justice, I'd learned long ago, was a dish best served with a side of handcuffs. The next 7 days tested every skill I developed in 65 years of life. Pretending normalcy while knowing someone is trying to murder your child requires a special kind of strength. But I'd survived Paul's death, built a business from nothing, and raised 3 successful children. I could certainly outplay a pair of small-time con artists with delusions of grandeur. Saturday morning, I called Sarah with enthusiasm that tasted like battery acid. Sweetheart, I've been thinking about that spa idea. How does next month sound? My treat for you and Grace. Oh, Mom, that's so generous. Her voice bubbled with false delight. I'll research the best places, maybe somewhere with hot springs. Perfect. And darling, I've been updating my will. Just routine stuff, but I want to make sure everyone's taken care of. You and James should probably do the same, don't you think? A pause, then, that's very wise. Actually, I've been suggesting that to James. You never know what could happen. No, I thought you really don't. James, meanwhile, deserved an Oscar for his performance at home. He'd moved temporarily to Grace's, but maintained the fiction of normalcy. He called Sarah every evening, sent loving texts, even brought her flowers on Tuesday. all while FBI agents documented his deteriorating health and growing evidence of poisoning. Dr. Patel, a toxicologist the FBI recommended, was blunt in his assessment. 6 more months at this rate and you'd have complete kidney failure. Your wife knew exactly what she was doing. Small enough doses to avoid acute symptoms large enough to cause cumulative damage. Can you reverse it? I asked, clutching my son's hand in the sterile medical office. With immediate treatment, most of it. But Mr. Hartley will need monitoring for years. Ethylene glycol is particularly nasty in how it crystallizes in the organs. James stared at his test results. She brought me protein shakes every morning, said she was worried about my nutrition. I thought it was love. It was planning, Dr. Patel corrected. Protein masks the sweet taste of antifreeze quite effectively. That evening, Grace made a discovery that changed our understanding of the conspiracy's scope. She'd been reviewing financial records when she found something odd. Mom, remember Aunt Catherine's estate? My sister had died 2 years ago, leaving me a substantial inheritance I'd never touched, planning to pass it to my grandchildren. What about it? There have been inquiries. Someone's been trying to access the trust documents. 3 attempts in the last month alone. Sarah mentioned organizing family finances. This goes deeper. The inquiries came from a law firm in Delaware. Guess who recently retained their services? My blood chilled. The twins. Through their brother, Samuel, posing as a financial advisor. They've been mapping our entire family wealth. Every account, every property, every future inheritance. I thought of Sarah's sweet smile as she'd shown me those documents at lunch. She hadn't been organizing for our protection. She'd been cataloging assets like a thief casing a mansion. Marcus called from Chicago with his own revelation. Mom, I checked the flight manifests like you asked. Sophie Richardson has been flying my routes for months. Always different cities, but following my schedule. And get this, she's booked on my flight next Sunday, the day after the anniversary party. One twin at the party, one ready to run, Grace muttered. Classic misdirection. There's more, Marcus continued. Remember I mentioned that man at the airport bar I've been asking around? 3 other pilots remember him. He specifically targets Continental employees, asks about security procedures, employee benefits. One colleague mentioned he was very interested in our flight insurance policies. Flight insurance, life insurance, health deterioration, financial mapping. The pieces formed a picture so calculating it took my breath away. Agent Martinez visited Tuesday with updates. The Henderson twins' mother has been located. Eleanor Henderson, currently in federal prison for wire fraud. She's been running correspondence courses from her cell. Courses in what? How to marry rich and survive. She calls it financial liberation for ambitious women. We have her letters to her daughters. She's been coaching them for years. A criminal family business passed down like a poisoned heirloom. I wondered if Sarah and Sophie ever had a chance at normal lives, then remembered my son's kidney damage and stopped caring about their origin story. Wednesday brought the biggest test yet. Sarah suggested dinner at their house, just the 3 of us. I couldn't refuse without raising suspicion. Their home looked like a magazine spread. Everything perfectly placed, professionally designed, soulless as a hotel lobby. Sarah had prepared James's favorite meal down to the wine pairing. If I hadn't known better, I'd have been touched. This looks wonderful, sweetheart, I forced myself to say. Only the best for my family. She served James first, her movements precise and loving. I watched her hands looking for any sign of tampering, but she was too careful now. Halfway through dinner, she dropped her bombshell. I have exciting news. I've been offered a position at a cardiac center in Miami. Better pay, better hours. James and I could start fresh somewhere warm. Miami, where Sophie's flight was headed, where extradition was complicated, where a widow might disappear into a new identity. That's quite sudden, I managed. Well, we haven't decided yet, but after the anniversary party, we thought we'd fly down and check it out. Just a quick trip. James played along beautifully. Sounds perfect, honey. Mom, you could visit. Escape the Connecticut winters. Wouldn't that be nice? I agreed, raising my glass. to new beginnings. Sarah's smile was radiant. She thought she'd won. Thursday, I met with Agent Martinez to plan the anniversary trap. The party would be at my house, easier to control and monitor. Agents would pose as catering staff guests, even parking valets. Every corner would be covered. We need her to make an overt move, Martinez explained. Attempted poisoning in front of witnesses discussing the murder plot, something undeniable. What if we make her think James is sicker than he appears? I suggested. That her timeline needs accelerating. Risky. Cornered criminals are dangerous. So are mothers protecting their children. We refined the plan until it was foolproof, or as foolproof as anything could be when dealing with professional criminals who'd spent years perfecting their craft. Friday night, Grace stayed over. We sat on my porch watching fireflies and drinking wine, not talking about tomorrow's party. Finally, she broke the silence. I keep thinking about Emma. How do I explain that Aunt Sarah is actually an evil twin trying to hurt Uncle James? It sounds like a bad movie plot. Children understand good and evil better than adults. We're the ones who complicate it with excuses and explanations. Were we really so blind, Mom? I considered my answer. No, we were trusting. There's a difference. Blind people can't see. We chose to see the best in someone. The fact that she exploited that says everything about her character and nothing about ours. Saturday dawned bright and clear. I spent the morning cooking my hands steady despite my racing heart. Sarah arrived early to help, wearing a new dress and her brightest smile. Today's going to be perfect, she assured me, arranging flowers with artistic precision. Yes, I agreed, watching her twist that ring. Today changes everything. The guests began arriving at 4. Friends, family, business associates, and hidden among them, the people who would finally end Sarah's performance. I watched her work the room, the devoted wife, the caring daughter-in-law, the consummate hostess. Sophie was supposed to arrive as cousin Rebecca at 5. The FBI was ready. We were all ready. But as I would learn, the Henderson twins hadn't survived this long by following predictable patterns. The real show was about to begin, and none of us were prepared for the plot twist they'd prepared. The doorbell rang at 5 exactly. Sarah went to answer it, that wedding ring spinning like a compass, pointing toward disaster. The woman at my door wore Sarah's face but carried herself differently. Sophie Henderson, playing cousin Rebecca from Florida, had sharper edges, a hungrier smile. Where Sarah projected warmth, Sophie radiated calculation. You must be the famous Mom Adrienne. She pulled me into a hug that felt like being embraced by a mannequin. Sarah's told me so much about you. All good, I hope. I let her inside my skin, crawling where she'd touched me. The differences were subtle but clear once you looked. Sophie's voice pitched slightly lower. Her laugh came quicker, less melodious than Sarah's practiced giggle. She moved through my home like she was memorizing exits. Rebecca, Sarah rushed over, and I watched the twins embrace. The performance was flawless, 2 cousins delighted to reunite. But their eyes held entire conversations in milliseconds. Agent Martinez, dressed as a server, offered Sophie champagne. Agent Williams, playing a neighbor, engaged her in small talk. The trap was set, but the mice seemed remarkably unconcerned. James looks tired, Sophie observed, watching my son across the room. Sarah mentioned he hasn't been well. Work stress. I deflected. You know how men ignore their health until it's too late. Sophie agreed, her smile sharp as winter. The party flowed around us. 50 guests celebrating a marriage built on lies, toasting a couple, where one half was slowly murdering the other. I played the proud mother-in-law, all while documenting every word, every gesture, every tell. An hour in, Marcus arrived. He stopped short, seeing Sophie, his pilot's training, keeping his expression neutral. But Sarah noticed his reaction. Marcus, she intercepted him smoothly. Come meet my cousin Rebecca. My youngest son shook Sophie's hand, and I saw the recognition flicker. The same woman from his flight, now playing a different role in our family drama. Pleasure to meet you, he managed. Sarah's mentioned her Florida family. All lies, I'm afraid, Sophie laughed. We're terribly boring. Not like you jet-setting around the world. The FBI had briefed Marcus, but seeing the twins together clearly unsettled him. The identical faces, the synchronized movements, the way they seemed to communicate without words. It was like watching a two-headed snake decide which direction to strike. Grace arrived with Emma, who ran straight to Sarah. "Aunt Sarah, Mommy said you might make cookies with me next week." "Of course, sweetheart." Sarah knelt down the picture of loving attention. "We'll make whatever kind you want." Watching her with my granddaughter, knowing what she planned for our family, required every ounce of control not to snatch Emma away. Grace's face showed similar strain. "Actually," Grace interjected, "Emma has a dance recital next weekend. Maybe another time." Sarah's eyes narrowed slightly. "Oh, that's disappointing. I was really looking forward to our girl time." 7 o'clock brought dinner. I'd prepared James's favorites, each dish a memory of better times. Sarah insisted on serving him personally, her plate preparation careful and deliberate. Agent Martinez watched from the kitchen doorway. "A toast." Sarah stood raising her champagne. "To 5 wonderful years with the love of my life. James, you've given me everything. I never had a home, a family, a future. Here's to many more years together." "Hear, hear." The guests echoed, unaware of the irony. James stood, his own performance beginning. "To my beautiful wife, you've been my anchor through everything. I don't know what I'd do without you." "You'll never have to find out," Sarah promised, kissing him softly. Sophie watched with an expression I couldn't read. Pride in her sister's performance, anticipation of the coming payoff, or something else entirely. 8:30 brought the cake. I'd made it myself, 5 tiers of vanilla and raspberry, James and Sarah's wedding flavors. As I carried it out, Sarah intercepted me. "Let me help, Mom." She took one side of the heavy tray, guiding us to the table. "This looks absolutely perfect. You've outdone yourself." "Anything for my children," I replied, meaning it differently than she'd ever understand. As we set the cake down, Sarah leaned close. "I have a surprise for James. After everyone leaves, could you keep him occupied for just a few minutes? I want to give him his present privately." My blood chilled. "Of course, dear. What kind of present?" "Something that will change our lives forever." Her smile was radiant with dark promise. The cake cutting proceeded normally. Sarah fed James with practiced tenderness, while photographers captured their false happiness. Sophie circulated charming guests, playing the visiting relative perfectly. But something was building. I felt it in the air, saw it in the twins' increasingly frequent glances. Whatever Operation Butterfly truly was, it was entering its final phase. 9:40 brought the first deviation from plan. Samuel Henderson arrived. He wasn't on the guest list. He shouldn't have gotten past the FBI agents outside. But there he stood in my doorway, handsome and confident in an expensive suit, holding a bottle of champagne. "So sorry I'm late." He kissed Sarah's cheek, shook James's hand. "Traffic from Boston was murder. You must be the famous Adrienne. Sarah talks about you constantly." "And you are?" "Dr. Samuel Richard, Sarah's colleague from the hospital. We've worked together on several cardiac cases." Lie upon lie upon lie. But the FBI couldn't move without blowing their cover, and Samuel's arrival had clearly surprised them too. I saw Agent Martinez speaking urgently into her sleeve. "How thoughtful of you to come." I managed. "Sarah, why don't you get Dr. Richards some cake?" The 3 siblings convened in the corner, heads together like conspirators planning a siege, which I realized they were. Grace appeared at my elbow. "Mom, something's wrong. This wasn't the plan." "No," I agreed. "But we adapt. Get Marcus. Tell him to watch the exits." 10:15 changed everything. James collapsed. One moment, he was laughing with college friends. The next, he was on my living room floor, convulsing. Sarah rushed to him, every inch the concerned wife. To call 911. She cradled his head, checking his pulse with professional efficiency. "James, honey, can you hear me?" The room erupted in chaos. Guests scrambled for phones. Sophie produced a medical bag from nowhere. Samuel cleared space with surprising authority. The FBI agents couldn't break character without revealing the operation. But I knew this was performance, not emergency. "Everyone stay calm," Sarah commanded. "I'm a cardiac nurse. Rebecca is too. We've got this." Sophie pressed an oxygen mask to James's face while Sarah prepared a syringe. "Epinephrine," she announced. "Possible allergic reaction." "He's not allergic to anything," I protested, pushing forward. "Allergies can develop suddenly." Samuel smoothly intervened, blocking my path. "Please let them work." Grace grabbed my arm. "Mom, we have to stop this." But Agent Martinez was already moving. "FBI, nobody move." The room froze, then exploded. Sophie bolted for the kitchen exit. Marcus tackled her before she made 3 steps. Samuel tried for the front door, but found Agent Williams waiting. Sarah didn't run. She pressed the syringe to James's neck, her face calm and determined. "One more step and he dies." Sarah put it down. Agent Martinez had her weapon drawn but couldn't risk shooting with James as a shield. "You don't understand." Sarah's voice was different now, harder, real. This was never about the money. Well, not just the money. Then what? I stepped forward, ignoring the agents trying to stop me. What was worth destroying my family? She looked at me with eyes I'd never seen before, cold, ancient, wounded. "You had everything. Perfect family, perfect life, perfect love. Do you know what it's like growing up with nothing? Being shuffled between foster homes where the best you could hope for was being ignored? So you decided to take what others built. We decided to survive. Then we decided to thrive. Then we realized we were good at it." She looked at her siblings, both now in custody. "Really good at it." "But why James? Why my son?" Her laugh was bitter. "Because he was easy. So desperate for love, he never questioned the miracle of someone like me choosing him. Because your family had so much you'd never miss a little skimming. Because..." Her voice cracked slightly. "Because for a moment, I almost believed it myself." "Believed what?" "That I could be part of something real. That your kindness was genuine. That family could mean more than survival." The syringe trembled in her hand. "But that's not who we are. We're the Hendersons. We take, we leave, we survive." "It doesn't have to be that way," I said softly. "Put down the syringe. Let my son live. Choose differently." For one heartbeat, I saw something flicker in her eyes. The girl who might have been if life had dealt different cards. Then it vanished. James was never getting out of this alive. The antifreeze was just the backup plan. She lifted the syringe higher. "This is concentrated potassium chloride. Instant cardiac arrest. Untraceable in an autopsy because the heart naturally releases potassium when it stops. Sarah, please." James spoke from the floor, his collapse apparently part of the FBI plan. "I loved you, despite everything that was real." "Love?" She laughed, tears finally breaking free. "You loved the character I played, the sweet nurse who needed saving. But that woman doesn't exist. She never did." "Then who are you?" "I'm the girl who learned that families throw you away, that love is conditional, that survival requires becoming whoever they need until you get what you want." She looked at me again. "Your performance of motherhood was exquisite, Adrienne. I almost bought it." "It wasn't a performance." "Everything's a performance. You just don't realize you're acting." Sirens wailed outside, backup arriving. The room held its breath, waiting for Sarah's next move. 60 seconds, Agent Martinez warned. "Then SWAT comes in. This ends badly for everyone." Sarah nodded, seeming to shrink into herself. "It always ends badly for people like us. Sophie knew that. Said I was getting too attached, staying too long. Should have listened." "You still have a choice," I insisted. "Put it down, face justice. Build something real for once." "Justice." Her smile was infinite sadness. "There's no justice for throwaway children who grow up to be throwaway adults. There's just survival and the spaces between cons. She lowered the syringe slowly. James rolled away as agents swarmed. The arrest was swift professional anticlimactic after all that tension. As they led her past me, Sarah stopped. The retirement account in the Caymans. Password is your wedding date. Consider it payment for 5 years of pretending I belonged. Then she was gone, Sophie and Samuel already in separate cars. The Henderson family reunion was over. The aftermath of the anniversary party felt like walking through a bombed city. My beautiful home filled with evidence markers. My family shell-shocked and silent. The fairy tale revealed as a nightmare, and we were all still trying to wake up. FBI agents worked through the night cataloging evidence, taking statements, dismantling 5 years of lies, piece by careful piece. I sat with Grace and Marcus in my kitchen, the same table where Sarah and I had rolled pie crusts and shared false intimacies. James, I asked when Agent Martinez finally joined us. At the hospital. Physically, he's fine. The collapse was part of our contingency plan. When Samuel arrived unexpectedly, James improvised. Smart thinking, actually, forced their hand. And emotionally, Martinez's expression softened. That'll take longer to heal. By morning, the full scope emerged. 17 electronic devices hidden throughout my home. My computer cloned passwords, stolen every keystroke, monitored for months. The violated feeling went deeper than theft. It was invasion at a cellular level. How did we miss it? Marcus kept asking. I'm trained to notice details, spot irregularities. How did I not see? Because you weren't looking, Martinez replied. The best cons work because they give us what we want to see. A loving wife for James, a devoted daughter for you, Mrs. Hartley, a fun aunt for Emma. We see what confirms our hopes. The interrogations began Monday. I wasn't allowed to attend, but Martinez shared what she could legally tell us. Sarah broke first, perhaps tired of carrying the weight of performance. Their story emerged in fragments. Eleanor Henderson, their mother, had run small cons since her teens. She'd had the twins at 17, seeing them as future accomplices rather than children. When Child Services finally intervened, the girls were 12, already trained in the family business. Foster care just refined their skills, Martinez explained. They learned to read families, identify the generous ones, the lonely ones, the broken ones. By 18, they were running their own games. How many families? Grace asked her prosecutor mind, needing facts. 7 confirmed. The Hartleys would have been 8. Total theft across all victims approximately $8 million. And the deaths? 2 confirmed poisonings. Both ruled natural causes initially. 3 more suspicious deaths being reinvestigated. Your son is lucky. Most victims don't survive to see justice. Wednesday brought more revelations. The FBI had raided Sophie's apartment, finding what they called a murder kit. Various poisons, fake IDs, detailed psychological profiles of dozens of potential victims. The Hartley family had our own file 2 inches thick. They studied you for a year before Sarah approached James. Martinez showed us excerpts. Every charity event you catered. James's dating history, Grace's divorce, Marcus's flight schedules. They knew your weaknesses before you knew their names. I read Sarah's notes about me. Widow, still grieving, desperate for family unity. Soft target, maternal instincts override caution. Soft target. Is that what love looked like to predators? Friday, James finally came home. Not to his house, he couldn't face that yet, but to mine. He looked like he'd aged a decade in a week. We sat on the porch watching the sunset, not talking about the elephant crushing us both. I loved her mom. His voice was broken glass. Even knowing what she was doing, part of me still loves who I thought she was. That's not weakness, honey, that's humanity. Is it stupidity? I'm a financial analyst. I study patterns, assess risk. But I couldn't see the danger sleeping next to me. Love is supposed to be a place where we don't have to analyze risk. He laughed bitterly. Tell that to my kidneys. The medical reports were encouraging. 6 months of treatment should reverse most damage. Physical healing had a timeline. The emotional wounds would take longer. You know what hurts most? James continued. The moments that felt real. Our first Christmas. The time she held me when Grandma died. The way she'd curl into me during thunderstorms. Was it all performance? I thought about Sarah's final words. The Cayman account. Payment for pretending to belong. Maybe some moments were real for her too. Maybe that's why she stayed too long. Martinez says Sophie was furious about that. The original plan was 18 months maximum. Sarah stretched it to 5 years. That's why they were escalating. Sophie wanted out. A family business with dissenting partners. How mundane evil could be. Marcus visited Saturday with updates from his airline. The drug trafficking charges were substantial. Sophie had used his flight benefits to transport prescription medications across state lines, selling to wealthy clients who wanted discretion. 27 flights over 8 months, he reported. I feel like an idiot. You're not responsible for a criminal using your privileges, Grace countered. That's like blaming a locksmith because someone copied their key. The DEA agrees, Marcus said. I'm cleared, but the airline wants me to take a leave. Too much publicity. Another casualty of the Henderson hurricane. Sunday brought unexpected visitors. 2 women who'd survived previous Henderson cons. Patricia Morse from Pennsylvania, whose husband died 3 years ago. Linda Chen from Maryland, who'd lost her mother and nearly her husband. We wanted you to know you're not alone, Patricia said, clutching my hands. The shame, the disbelief, the anger, we've been there. Linda nodded. My husband still has nightmares. Wakes up checking his food, won't eat anything I didn't prepare myself. The paranoia is almost worse than the poisoning. We spent hours comparing stories. The patterns were identical. One twin integrating into the family, the other maintaining distance but available for alibis. Slow poisoning disguised as natural illness. Financial documents mysteriously organized. The push for updated wills and insurance. Did they ever show genuine emotion? I had to ask. Patricia considered. Once. Sarah cried when she had to put down a stray cat she'd been feeding. Sobbed like her heart was breaking. Then an hour later, she was researching funeral costs for my husband. Still don't know what to make of that. Compartmentalization. Or perhaps the cat was the only relationship where she didn't have to lie. The trials were set for spring. Federal charges for the interstate crimes, state charges for the attempted murders and fraud. Grace was consulting with the prosecution, her expertise in financial crimes invaluable. They'll plead out, she predicted. Too much evidence for a defense. The question is how long they'll serve. Not long enough, James said flatly. But I wondered. 25 years in prison for Sarah. Was that justice for a child taught to con before she could read? Or was it simply the inevitable conclusion of a life story written in other people's pain? Eleanor Henderson was harder to pity. The investigation revealed she'd been running correspondence courses from prison teaching other women how to target wealthy families. The mother who'd turned her daughters into weapons then sharpened them from behind bars. Evil, Grace declared. Pure, simple evil. But nothing about this felt simple to me. The financial recovery began immediately. The FBI froze accounts in 4 states and 3 countries. The Cayman account Sarah mentioned held $900,000, blood money from 7 families suffering. It'll be distributed among the victims, Martinez explained. The Hartley portion should be around $200,000. Give our share to the others, I decided. The families who lost someone, they need it more. Mom, that money was stolen from us, Marcus protested. Money can be replaced, husbands and mothers can't. The investigation widened. Samuel had his own network selling fake medical credentials, helping other con artists establish false identities. The Henderson family business was a franchise operation spreading misery across the country. We've identified 43 people who bought services from them. Martinez updated us. Your evidence is helping us track down active cons nationwide. You've saved lives, Mrs. Hartley. Small comfort when I looked at my son's haunted eyes. 2 weeks after the party, I returned to my contaminated house. Everything felt wrong. The kitchen where we'd cooked together, the living room where she'd pretended to read, the guest bathroom where she'd hidden to make phone calls. I started packing. Some memories are too poisoned to preserve. You're not letting them drive you from your home, Grace argued. I'm choosing to leave a space that no longer feels safe. There's a difference. Marcus found me a smaller house closer to town. 2 bedrooms, new construction, no history. Grace helped me choose security systems. James handled the sale of the old place, needing the distraction of logistics. Moving day felt like surgery, cutting away infected tissue so the healthy parts could heal. I kept only what predated Sarah, what belonged to Paul and our real life. The rest went to charity or flames. 5 years of false memories reduced to smoke and ashes drifting away, like the butterflies Sarah had named her operation after. Metamorphosis indeed, but not the kind they'd planned. Spring arrived with cherry blossoms and court dates. I sat in the federal courtroom surrounded by my children watching the Henderson twins face justice. They looked smaller now, their identical faces pale without the glow of performance. Orange jumpsuits had a way of stripping away illusion. Sarah pleaded guilty to all charges. 25 years federal time with possibility of parole in 15. When the judge asked if she had anything to say, she stood slowly. I apologized to the families I've hurt, especially the Hartleys. You showed me genuine kindness, and I repaid it with calculated cruelty. I can't undo the damage, but I can at least stop pretending it was justified. She looked at me directly. Adrienne, you asked me once who I really was. I'm Sarah Henderson, and I'm exactly who my choices made me. That's my only truth. Sophie got 20 years, no statement, no remorse, just cold acceptance of consequence. Samuel, 15 years, still maintaining his innocence, despite overwhelming evidence. Eleanor, the matriarch of misery, received 30 years. At 73, it was effectively a life sentence. Good, James said as we left the courthouse. Let them rot. But I saw Grace watching James with concern. The bitterness was eating him alive, more toxic than any antifreeze. Summer brought unexpected healing. The victim support group Martinez recommended became a lifeline. 7 families bound by the unique trauma of loving a lie. We met monthly, sharing stories, strategies, small victories. I ate at a restaurant last week, Patricia Morse announced proudly. First time in 3 years I trusted food someone else prepared. I went on a date, another woman shared. Spent the whole time looking for tells that he was performing. But I went. Progress measured in tiny acts of faith. James started therapy in June. Twice weekly sessions with Dr. Kumar, who specialized in betrayal trauma. The changes came slowly. First, he stopped checking his food obsessively. Then he deleted the tracking apps he'd installed on everyone's phones. Finally, he cried. She used to sing in her sleep, he told me after one session. These little wordless melodies. I'd lie awake listening, thinking how lucky I was. Now I wonder if even her dreams were rehearsed. Maybe that was the one time she wasn't performing, I suggested. Maybe sleeping was her only honest moment. He considered this. I'll never know, will I? That's what she stole. Not just money or health, but the ability to trust my own memories. By fall, life had found new rhythms. I'd reopened my catering business in the new locations, smaller but steadier. The Pemberton anniversary party I'd been planning during the nightmare became my comeback event. 200 guests, 5 courses, and not a single protein shake in sight. You've outdone yourself, Mrs. Pemberton gushed. That mushroom risotto was divine. Family recipe. I replied, thinking of real family, not the poisonous imitation I'd harbored. Marcus returned to flying in September. Continental had offered him a promotion international routes with better pay, but he chose regional flights instead, wanting to stay close to home. Family needs to stick together, he explained, the real kind. Grace's success was quieter but profound. The FBI consulting led to job offers from 3 federal agencies. She turned them all down, choosing instead to start a practice, specializing in helping fraud victims recover assets. "I know what it's like to have someone systematically steal your life," she explained to clients. "Let me help you take it back." Emma, resilient as children, are adjusted fastest. Aunt Sarah became the bad lady who lied, a cautionary tale simplified to child-level understanding. Grace found her a therapist who specialized in helping children process family trauma. "She asks about her sometimes," Grace admitted. "Wants to know if bad people can become good people." "What do you tell her?" "That some people choose to hurt others, but we choose to help. That's what makes us different." The financial recovery exceeded expectations. Between frozen assets, insurance settlements, and civil suits, the victims recovered nearly $4 million. True to our word, we directed our portion to families who'd lost loved ones. Patricia Morse called when she received her check. "This is too much. Your family suffered too." "We survived intact. That's worth more than any money." "You know, Sarah had the Cayman account password as your anniversary. Even stealing, she couldn't escape sentimentality." Or perhaps that was her tell all along. The sentimental thief who stayed too long, got too attached, let performance bleed into reality. November brought unexpected news. Sarah had requested to enter a prison education program. She wanted to become a legitimate counselor, help other women escape cycles of crime. "It's probably another con," James said when I told him. "Maybe. Or maybe prison is the first place she doesn't have to perform." "You're defending her," his voice sharpened. "I'm hoping people can change. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this?" He didn't answer, but I saw him thinking. The holidays approached with trepidation. Our first Thanksgiving since the revelation felt like navigating a minefield of memories. Every tradition carried Sarah's shadow. The cranberry sauce she'd perfected, the place setting we'd always saved for her. "New traditions," Grace declared. "We're eating Thai food and watching action movies." So we did. Spring rolls and explosions, my children laughing at the absurdity. It wasn't traditional, but it was honest. Real. Ours. James surprised us all on Christmas. "I've been thinking about what you said, Mom, about people changing. I want to visit her." "Sarah." Marcus dropped his fork. "I need to ask her something, for closure." We didn't talk him out of it. Healing happens on its own timeline. He went January 3rd, returned 4 hours later, quiet but calmer than I'd seen him in months. "What did you ask her?" If any of it was real, just one moment, one smile, one kiss that wasn't calculated. "What did she say?" "That the first time I brought her home to meet you. She said she almost called off the whole con that day because you reminded her of the mother she'd imagined having. But Sophie was waiting in the car, and the plan was already in motion." One moment of truth in 5 years of lies. It wasn't much, but it was something. The anniversary of the party approached like a storm system on radar. We all felt it coming, the weight of remembering. Grace suggested we mark it, somehow transform the date from trauma to triumph. So on a bright Saturday in February, we held a different kind of party. The victim families gathered at my new home. Patricia brought her husband's favorite cake. Linda brought photo albums of life after survival. Others brought food stories, hope. To the families who survived, I toasted. To the love that endured despite the lies. To the future we're building on foundations of truth. To second chances, James added, surprising us all. We ate, we laughed, we cried a little. Sophie and Samuel were serving time. Eleanor was appealing her sentence. But we were free. Not just from their schemes, but from the fear that had followed. Marcus met someone that night, Patricia's daughter, a pilot herself. They bonded over flight paths and fraud survival. Watching them talk, seeing my son's genuine smile felt like sunrise after the longest night. Grace announced her engagement to Thomas Chen, the FBI investigator who'd become first our protector, then friend, then something more. "He's seen our family at our worst," she explained, "and still wants in. That's either love or insanity." "Both," Tom laughed. "Definitely both. Even James showed signs of healing. He'd started dating a woman from his therapy group, another betrayal survivor who understood the constant checking the food fears, the trust issues. "We're taking it slow," he said, "glacially slow, but honest." The foundation work began that spring. Using the book proceeds from our story and donations from grateful families, saved by our evidence, we established the Hartley Family Foundation for fraud victims. Free counseling, legal aid, financial recovery assistance. Sarah wrote from prison, a single-page, neat handwriting. She'd completed her first counseling course, was tutoring other inmates for their GEDs. No request for forgiveness, just an update. Proof of change or another long con time would tell. "You're not writing back," James said, not a question. "No, but I'm not burning it either. Growth happens in the spaces between all or nothing." 2 years later at Emma's dance recital, I looked at my family. Real, messy, complicated healing. Marcus and his wife expecting their first child. Grace and Tom planning their wedding. James learning to love carefully but genuinely. "You did it, Mom," Grace whispered, watching Emma pirouette. "You kept us together." "We kept each other together," I corrected. The auditorium lights dimmed for the finale. In the darkness, I thought about families. The one we're born into, the one we choose, the one that tries to destroy us, and the one we rebuild from ashes. The curtain rose on Emma's final dance. She moved with confidence, trust in every leap. No fear of falling because she knew we'd catch her. That's what real family does. Not perfect, not without scars, but present, honest, true. The Hendersons had tried to steal our family's wealth. Instead, they'd revealed our true treasure. Not money or property or perfect Sunday dinners, but the choice to trust again after betrayal, to love again after loss, to build something real on the ruins of beautiful lies. The applause thundered as Emma took her bow. I stood with my children cheering for the next generation. One who'd know the story, learn the lessons, but not carry the wounds. Behind us, the past. Ahead, infinite possibility. And in this moment, peace. Sarah was wrong about one thing. Not everything is performance. Some love is exactly what it appears to be: flawed humans choosing each other despite the risk. That's not acting. That's courage. The lights came up and we moved forward together. A family forged in fire, proven in pain, choosing joy anyway. The Hendersons had given us one gift: we'd never take each other for granted again. The butterfly effect of their deception had indeed transformed us, just not into victims, into survivors, into teachers, into proof that sometimes the best revenge really is a life well lived. I thought of Paul, how proud he'd be. His family hadn't just endured, we'd evolved. Stronger at the broken places, beautiful in our imperfection, real in ways Sarah's performance could never touch. That's our story, not a fairy tale, but something better, truth. I hope my story has touched your heart and reminded you that even in our darkest moments, when trust is shattered and family bonds are tested, we have the strength to rebuild and emerge stronger. Have you ever faced a situation where someone you trusted completely turned out to be someone else entirely? How did you find the courage to trust again? I'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories of resilience, justice, and the triumph of truth over deception. Sharing this story might help someone else who's struggling to rebuild after betrayal. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Remember, your intuition is a powerful gift, your family's love is your greatest treasure, and your ability to rise from the ashes makes you unstoppable. Until next time, trust wisely, love fiercely, and always choose truth over comfortable lies.